Tēnā koe te kaika, tēnā koe hoki John, tātou kaiārehi tēnei pepa. O tira e haere tōna ngā mihi kia ko te katoa. I'm supporting this wonderfully articulated recommendation and to further confirm the membership that is before us for non-elected members to be a part of Te Kuaka, to be a part of the decisions that will ultimately be made about Māori, and it should be made by Māori. I do this with intention, with passion, with facts, and support of our whānau here and online. Nō reira, tēnā koe te katoa. It's not an opinion that I'm about to lay out for us. This is the truth. And it's our obligation to te iwi Māori under legislation. I state that Māori exclusion from decision-making in Aotearoa, it's not accidental. It was designed that way. And we are trying to undo it. Me hoki haka muri tātou. Let's go back in time. 1835, through He Hakaputanga, which has already been stated this morning, our tupuna declared rangatiratanga, their full and undisturbed sovereignty, which was recognised by King William IV by 1836. 1840, Te Tiriti o Waitangi reaffirmed that authority while allowing the Crown to take care of their unruly subjects and extend partnership and protection over Māori. But what followed was not partnership. What followed was a legislative assault. The New Zealand Constitution Act of 1852 established Parliament, but voting rights were tied to individual land ownership. Māori land was held collectively, so Māori, the majority of this country at the time, were effectively locked out of a democratic system from day one. Then came the land laws. Land Act 1862, Native Land Court Act 1865 converted collectively held whenua into individual titles, not to empower Māori, but to make land easier to purchase, fragment, and alienate. It worked, obviously. By the early 1900s, Māori had lost the vast majority of their land, their home, their identity. New Zealand Settlements Act of 1863 authorised the Crown to seize land from Māori deemed to be in rebellion. Over 3 million acres were confiscated, not just from one conflict, but from an entire community. Whānau displaced, economies destroyed, generations impacted, till this very minute. Public Works Act of 1864, land could be taken for the public good. Roads, rail, infrastructure, like Tukititi, like Sailor Morgan's land out in Ngāti Rua Mahue, Motuekaiti, like the Kaikwe Airport, like the Kaitai Airport, which was only just recently returned thanks to the collaborative work between Māori, this council, and the government. This is real, it's tangible outcomes. And those who have lived this reality know. Those who have not lived this reality will say, let's just move on. Māori land was not disproportionately targeted, and in many cases, land was never used and has not been used since for that intended purpose. That's not development, that's dispossession through legislation. Native Schools Act, Tohunga Suppression Act, which criminalised our whānau, beat our grandparents for speaking a language that they only knew. Imagine that. Imagine here and this time, knowing all of these things, but still trying to fight against what we're trying to build. For generations, decisions have been made about Maori, for Maori, on Maori land and resources without Maori at the table. This has led to poor planning outcomes, broken relationships, projects delayed, opposed or failed, policies that look good on paper but don't work in reality. The Local Government Act allows us to have non-elected members at the table with full speaking rights and voting rights. And I actually applaud Councillor Court, who campaigned on having experts at the table, because in our last term, for Te Kuaka, our Executive Review Committee, we didn't have an HR expert. Councillor Court campaigned on that. Now we are extending that mana to our people to come to Te Kuaka and be the experts at the table, because I'm not an expert for Ngāti Wai, for Ngāti Hine, for Te Roroa, for Te Aupauri, ka hore, marato anō rātou e kōrero. E tātou mā, e pauhaere ana te wā. Nō reira, in the absence of voices at the table, it's more complicated. Kia kaha tātou, I encourage my fellow councillors to tautoko this recommendation. Kia ora mai tātou.
Other members to speak? Councillor Stratford.
I just wanted to tautoko the membership, the recommendation of Maori Sovereign, and really enjoyed their strong strategic participation in the last training, and look forward to being around the table with them again. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora. Councillor Smolders.
Good morning, thank you. I have some real concerns about the legal framework that we're operating within. We have already had this chamber rule that it's ultra vires that we appoint a hapu and not a person, yet here we are today allowing that. So I appreciate under 1A, welcome Mane Tahiri, welcome Wallace Rivers, but for number 3, we have 8 hapus. It must be a person, not a hapu, that is appointed. Secondly, I'd like to say that under Schedule 7, Clause 31 of the Local Government Act, it's clear that while non-elected members can be appointed to committees, they are not intended to exercise the same decision-making authority as elected members. So if we move into that structure, the line is blurred and there's a real risk of acting outside of the intent of the Act and potentially stepping into ultra vires territory. So as elected members, we have a duty to ensure our decisions are not only well-intentioned, but clearly lawful and defensible. And I'm not comfortable supporting a model that creates that level of legal uncertainty. This is not about excluding anyone, it's about getting the structure right, and the structure is not right. So for those reasons, I oppose option 1. Thank you.
I'll speak to the motion and speaking in favour of this motion. Now, I appreciate that we here today are resolving to agree to a representative nominated by each of the following hapu and iwi entities. We will fill those names in later. And those names of those representatives for those organisations will have the skills and the attributes that we need at our Te Kuaka table. I speak in favour of this because I have the Prime Minister's number, but he doesn't pick up when I ring. Our rangatira, the representatives who will sit at the Te Kuaka table, they also have the Prime Minister's number, and when they ring, he picks up. As the Mayor of the Far North, I do not have the same power to bring the Prime Minister up here to ngā whā. But the rangatira that we are appointing to our Te Kuaka committee today, they do. That is the kind of mana that I want sitting at the council table alongside us, because working together with that kind of mana, we are going to be able to do amazing and extraordinary things for the Far North District Council. We as a council have a mission of He Whenua Rangatira, a district of sustainable prosperity and well-being. Guess what? Alone, we are never going to be able to achieve that mission, but together, we are. So I speak in favour of the motion on the table today. I acknowledge the previous mayor of the Whanau District Council, who started and signed the whanaungatanga ki taurangi relationship agreement, who signed the MOU with Te Kuaka, who was the mayor at the time when our Manahaka Hono Aroke began, and took 3 years of legal tennis to finally get over the line when I was here. So I'm mihi to the history that has brought us here today, but I'm mihi to the positive and optimistic far north that we will have by actually sitting at the table together for our small, little, humble but powerful Te Kuaka Committee for Strategic Māori Relationships. Councillor Court.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't live my life on social media, but I would be blind or deaf not to be aware of the public concern that has been expressed on both sides of this debate. The reason I raised the procedural point of order at the beginning of this meeting was simply because Council resolved in December last year the committee structure of this Council. And as part of putting this committee together, Council agreed the membership would comprise of an external appointment, deputy chairperson, and hapu with a signed memorandum of understanding with this Council. That number is 8. That was known at the time, and the time for the debate of that was in December last year. It's not appropriate to raise that again today. Council also resolved at that meeting a policy to appoint external non-elected members onto committees, and my colleague is correct, I campaigned on that. That policy was revisited at this Council chamber on the 1st of April and endorsed, so it is not appropriate to revisit that today. The only matter up for debate today is the recommendation on page 6 of our agenda, which we one representative from each of the hapu with a signed memorandum of understanding with Council, and 2 members from Te Kaha Otanui. That is entirely in keeping with previous decisions of this Council. And I do understand all the passionate debate that we've heard this morning, but equally I do need to be mindful to the community's concerns out there, that they feel that perhaps this has gone a step too far. So I wanted to speak today just to clarify my position and why I will be voting in support of this resolution, because legally that is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Sorry, I just have a question. There was a mention of legalities around the hapu representation versus a named person, and you have addressed it in your kōrero, but I wondered if there was staff like Aaron perhaps to...
There will be one representative nominated, and we will receive the names of those representatives and put it in our terms of reference. But I'm conscious of time. I will go to Councillor Davina for right of reply.
In regards to that particular point, I believe reading Clause 31, Clause 7, that you will eventually need to appoint a person. You can pass this resolution today, but once those names are there, you will need to make that actual appointment.
Thank you.
And that will require a resolution through the chair. That will require a resolution of the council.
Thank you. Councillor Davina, right of reply.
Thank you for that. That was one of my comments, that there will be a real person appointed, so we can then formalise it when that occurs and you consider it here. The other thought and concern that was raised is that they have the same authority as elected members, and that's not correct either. They are in a subcommittee which can make recommendations, and as was pointed out too by the subcommittee, and another mistake that was actually made, I saw that come somewhere, is that the thought was that when there's a subcommittee, that council has to take notice of the subcommittee. It doesn't. It does. Council is not obliged to take what the recommendation is. So they do not have the same. So I have no problems with the way it is, and therefore I'll support it.
Thank you. The right of reply has been given, so I'll ask for a vote by division. In favour, kohefu. Councillor Allen.
Aye, Marika.
Councillor Bauke.
Staying.
Councillor Court. Councillor Foy.
In favour.
Councillor Haukian Harawira.
Aye. Sorry, I've got my lipstick.
Councillor Akina.
Aye, Marika.
Councillor Smolders.
Opposed?
Councillor Stratford. Councillor Vucic.
Aye.
The vote has passed. Tēnā koutou katoa. I will close our meeting with a karakia, and then our kōwhai needs to open her meeting and adjourn it in the next 2 minutes. So, ko te tapu o ngā kōrero ka irihia ki ngā pātu o tō tātou whare ki ngā koko mahara haumihi e hui e.
Ora
Tia,